Hello and welcome to the United Devil with me, JB. I hope we're all doing really well today. Amazing. So OBS is actually behaving itself today, which is always nice. We are the 18th of July, and I hope everybody is doing well today. It's a Friday. Friday's always a good day. Weekend approaching, and United have a match tomorrow against Leeds, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm probably going to do a watch along for that tomorrow. I've got some time booked out, so I'm probably going to look to do a watch along for that tomorrow, just because I can watch some football. It's always nice to watch the boys play. It's going to be interesting to watch that first game. Not going to read too much into that game, but I think it's important, and especially this year, I want to set a precedent for trying to watch as many games as I can. Really interested to see what Amrin is doing to the team, and hopefully we'll get some indications and start to see some patterns of playing. I'm looking forward to see who he's going to play. So I'll be doing a watch along for that. So feel free to join me on that. If you can stomach me for a couple of hours, it'd be really nice. Even just we can chat about some stuff, and keep it light, keep it funny, because I still think we need to support each other on this one. So today, as the thumbnail says, Šeško. I'm not going to lead with that one. I'm going to lead on the Mbeumo deal, which I think is pretty much done. I'd love to know if you want to get your thoughts in the chat on Mbeumo, what we will think about that in terms of how long, what we think about what he's going to bring to the club. So I want to be a little bit more positive today. Absolutely giving no credit to United, the club, whatsoever. They should have got this deal done, but this is not what this is about. This is not about the club today. This is going to be about the player, and it's not done yet. But I think it's pretty much there or thereabouts. So we'll look at Šeško. We can talk about that. We look at Mbeumo, and then anything else on the agenda today. So in Mbeumo, as it was reported yesterday, I jumped on. Really funny yesterday. So I was actually down the pub with the other half. We took the dog down. I'm just having like a little drink, and then lo and behold, on the way to the school run, it broke. So I wasn't going to stand there like a weirdo with my phone talking into it in the schoolyard. So I pretty much made my way back, and So the thumbnail yesterday was just a quick one saying that the deal's been done for 70 million. Now, well, actually, what it has transpired, and the price, the upfront price, which we're going to spread over a couple of years, is 65 million, with 5 mil in extras. So the add-ons, according to certain reports, are going to be difficult to get. One of them is Champions League wise. So the interesting thing there, that we're prepared to add in the 5 million. So basically, this has come up to. And can you really count the 5 million in that? Well, obviously you can or you can't. I'm of the opinion that in recent years, the 5 mil getting into the Champions League was a dead cert. Obviously, it isn't now. So 65 million. We offered 55. We've come up to 10. I'm going to stay positive. We've got this deal done eventually after 7 weeks. I'd love to know in the chat what you think about. Good morning there. I always butcher your name. To Temis again. Sorry, I butcher your name every time. Welcome to the chat, a legend of the chat. Welcome Šeško, Mbeumo, Tolisso, Luis, Rios, Wesley, Vinicius to United is better for next season, please. Ineos. Some great names there. Vinicius is an interesting one, actually. Not that I've heard any reports on that, but I know there's a contract issue there that I wonder if he will sign it. We have been linked to him in the past, so I'd keep my eye on that one. Not because I think that we might be linked to him at some point, but that I think that would be a really interesting one if Amorim this season, now he's got some players in, 2 players, and he can get this club firing, then I think that will be an interesting one. I'm waiting for Mark in the chat to come and dispel those myths. Šeško, we can talk about him as well. I'm glad that you've mentioned him. I'd be interested in your opinions on Šeško. Obviously, we can have our thoughts on that. Tolisso would be an interesting one. Luis, I'd welcome him. I think Rios, again, I think this is a player that I'd love to get into the club. Wesley's, again, is an interesting option. I think those players are all good players and would definitely improve us for the better. Rios, that's a player that I would love to bring in, but I think Roma, might pip us to that deal. 30 million euros, I think that is, and I think that will just be wearing my sort of my optimistic hat. I'd love to think now we've done this deal, get them on tour, can we move on to the next bit? Let the recruitment team, now it's over to the onboarding team to get Mbeumo ready for the tour. We can come on to that as well. And now on to the next one. So I just hope that now we know we don't have a lot of time, that we're just gonna start to move through the targets or the people that are left. Mbeumo, so I think it's quite clear now that this will get done. How quick we can get here we go. I won't be surprised today, tomorrow. And my reasoning for that is basically they want him on the tour, and we are going on tour on Tuesday. The first game against Leeds is tomorrow, and they want him on tour. So I think any optimistic fan now, I think is pretty, and unless there's an absolute utter collapse, and the collapse would have to come from our side or the medical highlights something. This deal happens. It happens in, I reckon he's on his way now, and he'll be unveiled. So I'm going to say that on this one, I'm just pleased the play's here. I'm glad we've managed to get it over the line. No credit to the club really on getting this deal done. I think this deal should have been done. I know I can get it from a perspective of we didn't want to get taken to the cleaners. 65 million, I think, is a little overflated. I think because the market is, but 65 plus 5, we've just gone and done what we've always done and just gone and play and I'm not against that. I'm not against it, but I wish we'd have done that from the start. I think if we'd have gone in with that bid or something like 62 and a half, then I think we could have saved face. I think this was all about trying to save face. So Jim, to quote him, we don't want to run to a bad idea. We want to walk to a good deal. We've walked to a deal. That's what we've done. So we've not walked to a good deal. We've paid the market price. So I'm not, again, for, you may be of the opinion that he's had one good season. I think he's had two, but I think last season was the pivotal one. So he's going to come to the club. 20 goals. I mean, Cunha, Mbeumo, I'd be interested to see what Amrin's going to do with those two. The combination of those two, they bring 30 odd goals. Is it 35 to 40 goals? If they can replicate most of that, then again, this then, in my opinion, brings us goals, brings us winners. And what I like about these two players is I like the appetite. I like how I think they're going to bring a bit of steel. I think they're going to be players who are going to bring in those goals, bring in other players into the team. They're going to be demanding, and I think they'll bring that ethos and that spirit. So now we've got this finally over the line. What I want to see is the next target now. And I know maybe that's a bit optimistic, but I think we now need to build on this and give the manager players, because no matter how you feel about Ruben, if we give him a chance with these sorts of players, in Mbeumo, I think as a signing, I'm more pleased than I thought I would be. Only in terms of it's taken so long to do this deal, but I am pleased, and I think he's going to be on tour pre-season, and we should be, depending on who we play up front. I do think that front three, supported by hopefully by wing backs, could be something special. I don't want to jinx it, but what I am hoping, and this is my opinion on it, is that I'm hoping we have like a York and Cole effect. I know they were strikers, but I'm sort of hoping for that. They've come in together. I got this vibe that they can play together. I think they're both team players, so I'm just hoping that those two can come in together, not infected by the other players, and they're going to bring some. And I do think the youth will come in and be inspired by these players as well. So I think all round, for the attitude of the team, and people will be drawn to the goals, of course, because we do need goals, and ultimately this is what they have been signed for, is goals. But I think they bring so much. They'll bring so much to the team. They'll bring that spirit. They'll bring the fight. They'll just bring so much to this team that I so looking forward to seeing these players. Now that it's done, move on, and I can be happy. And it's nice now. He's not signed yet, but he will sign. Is that we're going to have signed two players, and not just two random players, two of the Premier League's best players, and I'm really happy. I'm more relief now. I think we need two more. I think we need a keeper, which we can talk about that as well, and a striker. Segue in to the striker situation. So, and you can have your opinions on this, and I'll have my say and my opinion as well. So, we've sort of been linked to the Gyökereses, and obviously I would have loved to. I've got him. So Gyökeres, do I think we could have got him? I do. I'm of this opinion that we could have gone out there, got him. If we'd have been serious, I know he wanted to go to Arsenal, but I think with Ruben, I think we could have got that. We could have got that deal done. So Calvert-Lewin and Vardy and whatever else, those are my concerns. And I'm not going to lie, Calvert-Lewin, I think will play some sort of part in this. Šeško, according to reports, so Vivel, he basically knows Šeško, part of that RB link. I think he brought him through. I thought he gave him his time, and then obviously we've been tracking this player for 3 years now. So the fact that that we have the guy that brought him through, I think that's a really good start. I think that's a really good indication, and I think that's a really good kind of foundation and base for people to actually link that player to us, right? So that's that. Now the next thing is that Šeško, if he comes to us, he's not going to have Champions League or I think European football next year. So potentially it could come to us. So Premier League, I think United, for all of our faults and where we finished last year, I think it's an upgrade from where he is now. Leipzig, no Champions League football. So even from that outset, if we're looking for positives, and that's what I want to try to be today around a striker, because the alternatives are terrifying. So if we're kind of looking for indicators and points of where I think we could do some stuff here. So we've got the guy that brought him through. We've got European football, where if he stays, he's not going to get any. If he comes to us, we're a much bigger club in a better league, and he's not going to have any there. So, the next thing again is, I don't want to be there are 2 points for me whereby there are already red flags for me. Is number one, the price. Are we going to fork out between 68 and 85 million on a 22-year-old striker, who in my opinion is, I don't think he's necessarily set the world on fire. Is he? He's 22 years old. He's on that cusp now of transitioning over to what he's going to be in his prime. So he's going to start coming into those. He's going to start to spark, and if he's going to be a world-class striker, he's going to start sort of sparking that now when he's going to have some seasons. He may dip up and down the seasons, but this is sort of now where you want to get him. I would personally be comfortable paying around that 75 mark, 60, 75 mark. I think that would kind of more so be fair, because he's still so young. He's 22. That even if he had a good 6 years here, there is some value in that. So if you are now looking for a positive in regarding to Šeško, if you like this player, in my opinion, he's probably the last best striker out there. Ekitike, I don't think would fit us at all. I don't think he's that sort of striker. Šeško is that tall striker who brings people into play, and I'm of the opinion that I think this will be better than we've got. I think he's played a lot of games. I think he's experienced, and I think he's definitely the striker. Some people may not agree with that, but I do think he's that striker. That could be the next big thing, and I'd like to get him now. I think if not, if he does what I think he's going to do, we're talking 100 plus. So if you can get that deal done for 75 mil, I think that will be a good deal done. Now this is where we talk about the sort of red flags, and I've mentioned this already. Is the price? Are we going to take that chance? Which I think that we should do. I think that if you don't spend to get into the Champions League this season, we're going to have a problem. Right now, I think that there is an issue. Another super chat in here from Adiyeri. Again, I apologise if I've pronounced your name wrong, but thank you for being in the chat. It's hi Bobby, how are you? Ekitike should sign for 100 million euros deal for Hugo deal. Ekitike deal for Newcastle. Yeah, Ekitike for me, interesting one. For me, I have no doubt that I say that, but I think he's going to be a good player. How good a player he is, I don't know. He's one whereby, good morning, Bobby. Bobby, another legend in the chat. Hope we're doing really well today. Ekitike. Now, obviously, Liverpool are in for him, and there's a tussle there. I'm not sure if we can get into that race, but from a hypothetical situation, I'm going to try and do a positive show today, because we haven't officially signed him, but Mbeumo is pretty much thereabouts. So it's a good day. Friday, the sun is shining. I can see it's a bit overcast, but the sun is there, and it's nice and warm. So I'm going to be positive today. Šeško or Ekitike, I think those are probably the two that are left. And in a hypothetical, if we could get into either of those, and if we had the appetite to do it, which one of those two would you sign? Which one of those two do you think would be a better signing? I think they're quite expensive. I think Šeško would be slightly less expensive. I wonder if we went for either. I personally, in my opinion, this is my opinion, and as I say about being here, happy for you to get your opinions in, and as long as we are respectful to each other, I'm not gonna stop you from saying stuff. That the more random, outlandish discussions, the better, because I think that can spark different points, different chats, and I think it's really important that we kind of have all sides. You don't have to agree with me, you don't have to agree with everyone else in the chat, but I think it's really good to debate these points out. I'm happy to talk about the past, happy to talk about the future. So we bring bring it to the chat. That's what I say. Idris says, "Hi Bobby, how are you? I'd like to take Benjamin Šeško and Hugo Ekitike to Newcastle." I would like to take Benjamin Šeško and Ekitike to Newcastle. I'm sure both of those players. The thing is, I can actually see Šeško in a Newcastle shirt. Don't know why. I can just see him in that shirt. I can see Isaac in a Liverpool shirt. I can see Šeško in a Newcastle shirt, and Ekitike. Interesting one there. I don't know where I see him, but I could see him in a Liverpool shirt as well. So Isaac, Liverpool, I can see him in that shirt. I can see Ekitike in that shirt. Maybe not as well, but Šeško. I don't know if we've made our move too late on that one. I know we've been tracking this guy for 3 years, but my biggest caveat to all that, and I think these points are great, and I think we should still discuss the striker. I think he's too expensive. I just think that I don't think the appetite is there for us to. Do I think Mbeumo will be announced today? I don't know. The thing is, right, is that we want him for the tour. Will he go on? So the thing is that will he be on tour? I think he will be, but when does he go on tour? Can we get him done by Tuesday? So we go on tour on Tuesday, or will he sort of come on tour but on his own? I think it's going to get done. Will it get done today? I don't know. That's the thing. I would love to say that we're going to get the deal in and it's going to be done today. I think next couple of days. I don't think it's going to be done today. I don't think we're going to have the here we go today. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But again, it's gone a bit quiet. I'd have liked to have thought after the update yesterday that we'd kind of start to get that here we go today. I don't know if it's if it's everything United do are for clicks. Okay, so they obviously want to maximise the deal. So they want to maximise. I think announcing it today, we may get an in principle today. We may get we've agreed the principle of the deal. We might get that. but I don't know if I can just imagine the here we go on Monday. But I think once we know about the tour, in terms of once they know that he's going to go on tour, then I think we'll get. But I think it'll be next week. I think we're going to be made to wait. Again, I'd love it to be today. We might get the agreed in principle thing like today or tomorrow, just to know, just to kind of quell that sort of, just to quell that again, just to let fans know that he is on his way. So I want it to be today. I'm hoping it's today, but I suspect it's going to be next week. But let's see. Let's be positive. I want to be positive and say it's going to be today or tomorrow. So let's just leave it at that. Or I'm going to say today, tomorrow. Let's just be optimistic on that one. So Šeško, again, I think when we're talking about Šeško, I think we could kind of start getting into that striker situation, whereby where do we think that we're going to go next? So Ekitike has definitely been mentioned. Until he goes, I do think he's in talks with Liverpool. So Newcastle, I think he's probably in talks with them. So I think Ekitike and Isak those two are the intertwined deals. I think depending on what happens, so I think those two are linked. I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that Isak goes to Liverpool. From a purely selfish perspective, I hope not. If he does, then Liverpool have won the transfer window. The deals that they've done. So I'm hoping that they're not. In terms of other strikers. Obviously, I know before that the Genk striker has been mentioned. So did Šeško turn down Arsenal, or did Arsenal turn him down? Yeah. So basically, what happened with the Šeško deal, and I can't remember his name. I'm going to say it now. Arsenal's director of football, because I know he's a good guy. No, it's not him. It's not him. So Berta, that's the guy. Andrea Berta. So he's very good. He's known in the industry as being very, very good. I think they got him from Atletico. Or his reputation is fantastic. So what he did was he basically lined up the Gyökeres deal and the Šeško deal at the same time. I think Arsenal's preference was the Šeško deal. Okay, so he lined them both up, took them all the way to that kind of stage whereby it's time to pay up, and Leipzig didn't want to lower the price, so Arsenal went and did the other deal at a good price. So how they behave is how we should really behave. Is that he got both deals to that point of, look, we're going to sign like either player, got their camps involved, did all the work, and then basically pivoted to whatever player was the cheapest or the best deal to do. And that's what they did. So Šeško, saying that, caveat to that was there were rumblings that Šeško was a bit annoyed because he wanted to be their first choice. He didn't want to go to a team that kind of were like, he was their second choice. But again, if you're going to go to a Champions League team and a team potential of winning the league, then you're not necessarily going to turn that down. So there were rumblings from the Šeško camp that they weren't particularly happy, and that's the chance that you take, the danger that you take when you got somebody who trying to get two deals and is going to pick one. So Šeško sort of didn't really turn them down, but they just pivoted and did the other deal. And this is the not the red flag with me, but this is the sort of the two things is that now is the next thing a little bit of spin from the club, because we're going to do this deal, going to do the Mbeumo deal, so that's going to get done. Fans are happy, and what's the next best thing to do is, it's taken 7 weeks to sort of navigate that and to push us away from that, what would anybody do or any club do next is basically they would pivot and say, oh, well, we're going to do this next deal. Or we're going to go for Šeško 75 million and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. So for me, some of it could be spin, and my eyes are open now. I'm not going to get turned by these spinning plates and these spinning deals as to what we can do now. Fans are going to get frustrated, and I get fans are looking for positivity. I'm looking for positive signs. In Burma, we can't be swayed by the fact that this has taken 8 weeks into next week, 7.5 to 8 weeks to get this done. We need to get that announcement by the tour. Even if we get that deal's done, principle wise, great, he's done. But then it's the next thing. Where are we going to pivot to next? Are we going to pivot for the striker? Šeško seems like a logical perspective. Seems like a logical move for me because of the Vavel links, and Vavel did have a big hand in bringing Šeško through. However, Rubin obviously had links to his players and hasn't got a single player. So I think that puts us in the race. It just depends on our appetite to do the deal. I don't think there's anything stopping us from doing the Šeško deal. I think if we wanted to win that race, I think if we wanted to get into it, I think we could make that deal happen. I think there were too many inroads to it. We've obviously tracked this player for 3 years. He knows that we want him as a club. And it depends, I think, on the project as well. Can we sell him? We want to be in the Champions League. I mean, whether we think we can or not, but the whole thing's going to be: can we get into the Champions League? Are you going to be the striker that can turn us around? Are you going to be that striker to take us, to a Premier League? And then obviously I've been very critical, and I will remain that. And that's a good point, Bobby. That is the next point, the next logical thing on this one. And this is why this chat is amazing. And this chat is because that's going to be the next point, is where do we get the money from? The fact that to sort of pivot and using logic on that is that Bruno Fernandes, we could have got 120, 130 mil for that deal. We didn't take it. We all know that Ineos love a pound or two. They also know that they love to save a deal. We also know that Ineos and the Glazers, we know that they love a pound note. But they turned down the Bruno deal. So when you think about it from that perspective, they've turned down 150 million. You're not going to spend all that in one go. So let's just say we're paying 20 million for Mbeumo Cunha. You could probably do a deal for Šeško for like maybe 25 a year. That's 65 million, and you've got 130 million. So things to me don't tally up. If you look at it from a PSR perspective, PSR doesn't come into it for us. We are not conforming to PSR. So, and nobody's even mentioned that, because PSR has nothing to do with this. This is about cash. Okay. And the bit for me is, why did we turn down the Fernandes deal if we needed the money to rebuild the squad? Could we have afforded to turn it down? And some of the indicators were, we don't need the money. So if we don't need the money, then why aren't we doing these deals? So I'm with you. I think, where are we going to get the money from? Are we now going to look to sell players? Are we going to see some of that next? Are we going to see a Rashford go? He's not going to really bring us in any cash, unless they can pull something out of their arse and get him gone for 35 to 40 million. Then that's in the bank. And then where else do we go? Where, Anthony, if we can get him off the book. So, Šeško, I think, is a deal that can be done. I think the money comes from player sales. So unless we see some of those player sales, as you say, and quite correctly so, where do we get the money from? So there are all these things involved. There are all these spinning plates. We need a striker. Šeško's been linked, and we've got to ask ourselves questions here, right? Šeško being linked, is this just a spin? I think we need to be open to that. I've put it on the thumbnail because I think it's really important for us to question that deal, or question where this has come from. This has come from the Germans. So this has come from that out there, like from Pletigo and all that kind of stuff out there. So we need to be wise to this now, because we've been doing this for far too long, that we know that this could be spin. Okay, so I think as the week continues, and if more comes out about this, then I'll be a bit more optimistic about the Šeško deal. I do think we should get into that race 100%. I do like the striker as the best of what's left. I think Šeško would be the guy that I would go through. Ollie Watkins, he's there. I think at a current price, there's no way that I'd want to do that deal. Not 29 years old. Because the thing about Šeško as well is I'd be more comfortable offering him a deal for 5 years. I'd be comfortable with that. I don't necessarily like to do those, but I think that, and it'd be quite expensive. I think that I'd be more comfortable with him offering him a 5-year deal. He's 22 years old. 5-year deal, 27. Again, that's the sort of deal that Ineos will love to do. He's 22 and there is value still left. Imagine if he did extremely well. We paid 75. Potentially, he could still be worth that. You get that money in, or he could go for more. So Šeško for me really does. That makes sense, and I'll be happy with that on a 5-year deal as well. But Ollie Watkins, for me, is basically you get him in and there's no return. So whatever you spend on him, that money is spent, that money is gone. That's a sunk cost. You basically, as an asset, you're going to run down that asset, and then the residual value of him at 33 to 34 will pretty much be nothing. So someone like Watkins, and again, he'd be quite expensive, I think. I'm not saying it's a no, but again, a contract for him, not a 5-year deal. I'd love to see us do like a 2+1 or a 3+1, just so we're not stuck with him. Because 29 years old, was he 30 years old? He's. I'm not adverse to that striker, but not at the sort of money that Villa would want. They want 60 million for him. It's their right to ask for that. I think if you could get him for 35, like a Van Persie, that's who he reminds me of. Not the player, but the deal would be like a Van Persie. You'd get him. Van Persie was a better player, but he's that sort of player. 29 years old, 28 years old, 30. You get him in. You know he's going to get you goals. And you kind of know that the value's not going to be there. You're just getting him in as an absolute proven striker who can not only score you goals, but he's also then going to kind of, again, that sort of player who's going to show the younger strikers what to do. Fireboy says, "Hi bro, why we just with Rasmus? Then isn't he younger?" Rasmus, I'm glad that you brought him in, because again, we're talking about strikers, and I think that's a really good point to bring in Rasmus. I think there's definitely a. Rob says good morning, or if we don't, good morning, Rob. I hope we're doing well, my friend. I hope we're doing really well this morning. Rasmus, I think he divides the fan base. He's 21 years old. Let's not forget. I think the really important thing on Rasmus, if we don't get a striker, we're in trouble. I don't disagree with that. And I think that it's difficult, right? So Rasmus is 21 years old. Let's not forget he's a young man. We brought him in at 20 years old to lead a line. I need to say this. I've been supporting United for a very, very long time, as many of you've done the same. We've seen some amazing strikers. There's no coincidence that Fergie, if you look at the strikers that he brought in, they were all 25, 26, coming into that. When we bought Andy Cole, he was like 25, 26, off the back of a 40-goal season, I think, or 30. He brought him in, and all the strikers that he brought in, like Rude, Solskjaer, I think was a little bit younger. I think he was like 23. But all the strikers that he brought in were of a certain age. So he didn't bring in kids, right? He may have supplemented them with kids. Rooney, in my opinion, was probably the only player. He wasn't really a striker, but he did play that role at times. He's the only player that I've seen, pretty much other than Hojlund, Haaland. And Rooney's a better player, not a better striker, but a better player. I've never seen a player, and when he come on against Fenerbahce in the Champions League, scored a hat-trick at 18 years old. That's rare. Throughout all of our history, that doesn't happen. Okay, Rooney was an absolute once-in-a-lifetime talent. 16 years old, he came into the team, came into the Everton team, and then we signed him worth every penny. 18 years old, probably the only 18-year-old or young player that I've seen that could walk into our team and just do what he did, right? Asking Rasmus to do that at 20 years old wasn't fair on him, and I'm not surprised what happened. You got nobody else in that team to teach him, being with a big price tag on his head. No wonder he didn't do. So I think some fans are being unfair to him, but I understand if you are playing up front, you've got to hit the ground. And is he that guy? I think that we thought, or the club thought, he was going to be the next like Haaland, but he really is not. So what do we do with him? Do we go because he's expensive as well? And if he has another bad year, if he's asked to lead the line again and has another bad year, then his value drops again. So strikers need goals. So I think there's a split here. What do we do with him? Do we keep him and we play him as a supplement to the striker that we get? Can we actually afford to keep him? I don't think we can. So what do we do with him? I would love Rasmus. I think his attitude is right. He definitely suffers from confidence, which is not a good sign. Do we just cut our losses now and go, look, it hasn't worked out. You are young enough, and another club will at 21 years old will think that they can do something. So the fact he's got age on his side, and I think you can go either way on this one. However, I do believe that we, as Rob says there, send him out on loan. Yeah, I think the advantage of that is he gets experience, and maybe you send him out on loan with an option to buy, because I think that then if we get a striker in and they are, they're scoring, I think if we get Šeško in, then Rasmus, are we going to want him to come back? So I think that we do a loan. Rasmus, for me, I like him. I don't think we'd get the money back, so I think we should send him out on loan. I agree, but with an option to buy, not an obligation to buy, because the problem is that I think he could go and smash it, absolutely smash it somewhere. Go and play with maybe a little bit more of an experienced striker, and I think he's got all the attributes. I think he's got the mentality when he's in the right place, the right club. So I think we should probably do an option to buy and loan him out to somebody. I really like Rasmus. I personally do. He can't lead the line this season. He can't. We need a striker, and we can't ask him to lead the line this year unless Amarin does something with him. Pre-season, no, pre-season is not an indicator. If pre-season wise he plays, I think we should give him a pre-season, not because we're not going to loan him out, just because I think that if we can get him up to speed and he looks good, then you can loan him out. The danger with that is if he gets injured. So Rasmus, I think, is a tricky one, and I'm of the opinion on this one whereby I don't think you're right. I don't think you're right or wrong with the opinion. So if your opinion is, look, we need to sell him now, that's fair enough. If you want to loan him out, that's fair enough. If you want to keep him, then that's fair enough as well. Who then would you have as a backup number 9? Exactly, if you bring in a starting number 9. Now, we've got Obi, okay? Many people, including myself, when I listen to my heart and go, I'd love to give this kid a shot in the team. 17, I think he is. I think that would be a mistake. I think he's too young, and when I say that, I think physically, even though he's going to be he's going to be a big guy, he still needs to grow. So I wouldn't mind having him there as a third choice, giving him that experience, giving him an opportunity to shine. And if he does, fantastic. But I think my problem with Obi is I think he's a really good striker. I think he's got potential to be a really, really good striker. I don't want to see him go on loan. I think he's too good. I think I'd want him in that team and around the place. But I think I think his body still needs time to grow. I think the problem with it is if we play him too much, I think that he will get injured, and then maybe he can't feel that potential. If you look at what we've done historically, I'm not maybe necessarily talking about the last 4 or 5 years, but historically we've brought these players, kind of thrown him, we've kind of embedded them into the team. Mainu for me is a danger. This is what happens when you play a teenager too much. There's no doubt in my mind that he's a great player. Last year was the remnants of the back of a season where we played a lot. He went to the Euros as well, and this for me, he's the poster boy for this is what happens when you've got a talent and you ask to play every game. So mainly I'm hoping that again he can rest up and he's not going to be played as much, not because he's not good. I just think we need to let these kids embed properly into the team, and then when they're you got to think about this, right? We're clambering for these young stars, and this is why we burn through them. The Beckhams, the Scholeses, the Nevilles, they didn't come into the team till they were 21. 22. I think Scholesy came into the team late, but the advantage of that is that you let your muscles grow, you bed into the team, and then when you do come into the team, you've not only been around the team for 4 or 5 years, you've played a little bit, and then you learn and you get your experience. And by the time you're 21, you come into that side and you nail that place down. And this is what I want to start seeing with some of these players. Who would I bring in? So if we get our starting number 9, okay, I think we need to go get another striker. I think we need to go and look at a free market and go and get some of those signings. Calvert-Lewin, I think that's got United second signing all over it. I think he's got and if I'm wrong in this, I will be the happiest. And I think as a club that we were then moving forward and we are actually trying to do something. If we get a Šeško, I think you're alluding in the chat. What do we do? Like, I personally think we'll go for a Vlahovic if his contract gets cancelled, because I was of the opinion that his contract already has been cancelled. But I think if they decide to go their separate ways, I think that we'll go for a Vlahovic, and I think we'll go for a cheaper striker as well. So somebody like, and I think we mentioned on here yesterday, like a Vardy. I don't want Vardy, but if it meant we had a striker, a backup striker, and then maybe with like a Xerxes. I'm not saying that he's a striker, but if called upon, maybe he could do a job there. If that's the best that we could do, I think I would. I think that's more of a realistic lineup up front of a Vlahovic, of a Vardy, Lewin. I'm still, and you can quote me on this and come back at the end of the window and say you're wrong. We did Šeško and we did Vlahovic as well. Because ultimately, imagine if we did a Šeško and Vlahovic was like on a free, I'd go for them too, 100%. But I think that Calvert-Lewin will sign, but I don't think he will sign until we've got a first choice in. I'm convinced. I'm hoping I'm wrong, and when I am wrong, fingers crossed, you guys can come on in and say no, you messed that up. That then means that I'm happy because we haven't. But Calvert-Lewin, I think we'll end up with a front of Vlahovic, Calvert-Lewin, and Obi, with a Xerxes sort of supporting that. So that's where I'm at. But I do think we'll get an established number 9, and then I think we'll go for a cheap option as well, because we can't have Xerxes or Cunha or Mbeumo as a striker. Bruno's played there as well, and I can't have that. We need proper players in proper positions, and this is where I'm at on the striker. So I'd love to know if you can tell me what you. I'd love to know right now what you think our strikers will be. So say if we could have 2, so we'll have our main striker, backup striker, and then Obi, because I think Obi will be here as well. So what do you think that lineup will be? Because I think it'll be interesting to come back on this. I might even take a screen grab of it. It wouldn't surprise me, Rob. I think again, I honestly, I'm not. So this is why, for me, Vlahovic and Calvert-Lewin, right now, from what I know of Ineos and from what I've seen, that to me is where I think that we would go. That is where I think that we are going to go. I'd love to know what strikers you would get, and I'll take a screenshot of it and we can talk about it and see who actually came out closest. Not because I'm just like I want to be right, but I'll be really interested to see our thoughts on it, and it will give us an indication about what our aspirations are. So I think it could be a Vlahovic, Hojlund, Obi. We could get a Vlahovic, Calvert-Lewin, Rasmus goes on loan, and OB, or we maybe even go Šeško, and then at that point I think Hojlund will go out on loan. So I think the alternatives, I think striker wise, I think it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks about which lineup we go with, but I think the options are going to be very underwhelming unless we get a Šeško. So, Osimhen, again, that's gone. He's gone. I think he's on the verge of going to Galatasaray. Osimhen, I think, would be. But the most frustrating thing about that is that I think he'd be a lower price than a Šeško, and this is why Šeško for me is a little bit of a pie in the sky, because there are other strikers like I know an Osimhen, his wages would have been too much and a lot, but if he gets you in the Champions League, his price would have been lower. I don't know. Maybe he's a bit expensive overall. I just don't know, but I would have liked to have seen. I've seen that one done. So other than that, I think that we're in a better. I think we're in a better position. I'm just checking right now to see what's happening. The only other thing that I will mention, and again, positivity show, as we mentioned yesterday, Sancho. Sancho off to Juventus. I think that's got legs. I think that's gonna get done. I'm just looking to see if there's an update as we are speaking. I think Sancho. I think that deal is going to get done, unless Sancho basically just decides that no, there's nothing yet. Unless Sancho makes it crash, I think this deal's going to get done. I think we might even get a here we go on the Sancho deal before the Mbeumo deal. Rob says, can I ask, with Onana injured, do you think we will bring in a number 1 or a number 2 even to challenge Onana? This is a very well-raised point. Again, because there's no noise coming out the club, really, they are keeping their cards close to their chest, which I'm actually not of the opinion that that's a bad thing, right? What do I think? And then I'll pass it over to you to run with it to let me know what you guys think on that as well. I think we want a number 1. I am convinced that we need a number 1. First thing I'm going to chuck back to the chat is, would you rather sign a Šeško and use the money there, or would you rather bring in a number 1? I want to do both, but I'm just not sure how possible that is. I think we could get a Vlahovic and a keeper. If it meant taking a little bit hit on a striker, getting a make-do striker. Sophia boys in the chat. Hello, buddy. I hope you're doing well. If it meant, and I mean this because I think that we will get, it will bring us more points. I think if we can get a number 1 and tell Onana he's surplus to requirements and get him out, I would bring in a number 1. Now, interestingly, Martinez has a release clause, I believe, and this has been reported, of 22 million. I don't know how true that is. Reports are like 33 million, 22 million. So apparently there's a release clause of 22 million, but we would be prepared for 30 if they can let us pay that over a couple of years, maybe 2 years. Tell you what, if that is the truth, then 22 million, 30 million, you would go get him. He wants to come to the club. He wants to come to the club. I think he's itching to come to the club. I think he ticks all the boxes. If we could get him for 25 million, 30 million, go and get him. I do think, I agree with you. Rob says being in a number 1 striker on a free. Yep, agree. I think that a new keeper will give us an extra 10 to 15 points. I think Onana is that bad. Imagine we bought a goalkeeper to play out from the back when we don't play out from the back. We need a keeper who, right now, we need a keeper who is established, can actually stop shots, can actually save shots, can actually, and statistically, and I read these stats, that statistically Onana's actually better than Martinez. Statistically, if you're going to be looking, probably because he faced more shots, but it doesn't take into account like palming shots into players, faults that he did to cost us goals. So for me, I think our next priority position is a number 1. I think any good club would tell Onana now that you're surplus to requirements. go and find yourself a club, because you're not playing next season. I wouldn't even have him as a number 2. I think then if we get a new number 1 at a cheaper price at 25 million, that's a great deal. That's an absolute great deal to do. So what I would do is I would go and get him 25 to 30 million, and then go and bring in a less glamorous striker. We can't get a free striker. My only caveat to this is that bringing in a replacement, which I think we need to do, only works then if we take a hit on the striker, but we don't go and get a Calvert-Lewin. I'm going to keep mentioning his name. I'm just hoping that I'm wrong. We don't just go and get a player like that. Vlahovic is different. I would go for him, but we then need to go and take a risk on an Eric Adair, and that's not mine. That's from the chat. Is he the Genk striker? 21 to 22, got 20 plus goals. Those are the sorts of players that we would need to bring in. So I think we almost need to split up that money. So if we're prepared to pay 75 for like a Šeško, we need to split that money up and go, right, we need a keeper. We go and get Emi Martinez. That is the keeper that I think I want. That is the keeper that I think that will inspire confidence, experience. I think he's perfect. I do. I think he's absolutely perfect. Whether you agree with that or not, I think you're entitled to your opinion on that one. If not, then what other keeper? But I think for me, he's perfect. He wants to come. There is many noises coming out of Argentina. Really, like, sources on that are fantastic. So I would like to see a new number 1 and a lesser striker, with Rasmus probably going on loan. So as Bobby says, I prefer a new number 1. Agreed. I would as well. I think that position is so pivotal that Onana costs us too many points. So imagine this. Imagine a scenario where we get a Šeško, okay? And we are playing against Arsenal or Liverpool, and it's a close game. And even with our squad as bad as it is, some of those games we could compete in last year. And imagine Onana's in goal. We've got Šeško up front. We've got Mbeumo. We've got Cunha. And we are smashing a goal and we can't score, or they're having like an off day, or we just can't put the ball in the back of the net. It's a really tight game, or we've just scored a single goal in the 85th minute and we're trying to hold on to that, right? And we've got we've spent 200 million plus on 3 players. Even though they're having a cracking season, we've got to win this game, and maybe they're like having like an off day, because that will happen. And we just need to hold on, and Onana's in goal. We all know that team will be nervous from back to front. The defenders will know, the front 3 will know. The whole team is just hoping, and they'll be nervous, because what Onana does is we need a foundation. We need a foundation from the back that we know is. And again, Martinez will have a clanger or two, but unless we have that foundation, it can impact the rest of the team. And this is why I think it's so important, and I agree. So Martinez, I do think he's world class in terms of keepers. Now, you can argue that he's not, but I personally think he's up there. He's one of the best keepers in the world. He's in the top 3 for me. I think he is world class. I think he will establish confidence. I think the whole team will be more it's almost like you're waiting for something really like important, and you're like, oh, please, and then you get the positivity, and then it's all like and that's, for me, that's what it would be. I think Martinez number 1 is so important. I think that is the difference from being 12th to about 6th. I think that that position is so important, and the impact on the team will be so great. But that is the difference, I think, between 12th and 6th. I think if you get him in, I think we can then start talking about 8th, 6th. I think if we get the right striker in, then my expectation of the coach is up. He's got players in. He can work with those players. And then my expectation from then on is 6 to 8. Do I think we can get that top 4? Right now, no. But I do think that keeper position is so pivotal that I think that's the difference right now between 12th and 6th. So I think it is so important for us to get that position next. So I'm really hoping noises now start to come out that we sign him. I'd love. Bobby breaking. United are ready to step up their interest. In Royal Antwerp keeper Sene Lemens. Thank you for that. Antwerp value him around 17 million. I mean, I don't know much about him. Let's have a little look. Sene, yeah, Lemens. Let's have a look. See, and oh, yeah. I recognise his face. Let's have a little look. 23 years old. So again, see about 6'3", 6'4". I don't know what 193 is. So what's that, about 6'3", 6'4", 6'4". Yeah, he would be. I don't know what your opinion on it would be, but he looks like he'd be a second sort of number 2, but with a view that he's going to be number 1. That's my opinion on that. 17 million value, I think that's great value. Again, and these are the sort of deals, if we're then talking about a number 2, again, you could do that deal, 17 million, and then you've got enough for a striker. And we need bodies. I don't just want to bring in people for the sake of it on free. These are the deals that if we want to move forward as a club, these are the deals that we need to start to, because we don't have the cash. PSR we're fine, but cash wise we don't have the cash. But being able to do these deals, this is why we brought in certain people to this club, and this is what I would like to see that. And the fact it's coming from Alex Crook. Alex Crook is decent enough, not no way Fabrizio or an Ornstein, but you got to listen to that. So 17 million, I think, is a really good price. I'd be up for that deal. So hopefully now, I think positivity. I think what I'd like to see now is like to see now that whether or not it gets done today, tomorrow, or by the tour, I think Mbeumo will be done by Wednesday. Hopefully now we can start, because I think that was a really hard deal to do. I would like to see us now starting to do other deals. So the backlog is done. We can't take a break, and I think we need to go to the next deal. So the fact that these keepers and these sorts, I want to see us being linked to these players, not because they're cheap, but I want us to be linked to the next best keeper in the world. I want us to be linked. Now, you don't mind paying that sort of money, because ultimately, even if his value went down to 5 million, and you have him for 2 to 3 years, and he's not going to be expensive. I'd really would love to see that. So Rob says maybe the board think the Martinez value is a bit too high for his age. I would bring in, but I can't see us bringing in a number 2 who wants to be a number 1. But I can see us bringing in a number 2 who wants to be a number 1. And this is the conundrum, I guess, is that. So Martinez, for me, was he 32 or 3? prime age for a keeper, and many people have said this before me, is that a keeper at 32, 33, they're in their prime. They can. You think about this: if they stay healthy, and as long as their reflexes are pretty good. I mean, I'm 42, and mine is still okay. They could, he could play until he's 38 years old. What's Neuer? And I'm not saying that he's on the level of that, but what's Neuer? Neuer's got to be about 38. Let me find him. What's Neuer? Neuer's got to be about 38, 39, isn't he? Neuer is... So what's Neuer these days? Come on, everything takes ages. Neuer is 39. So, and I'm not saying that he's on the level of that, but 33, he's no age. And if you can get him for 2022, okay, I think that's a bit low. Say for 30 million, you've got to do that deal. He's 32, 33 years old. I think he could play 38, 39. And, it's an outlay. You're never going to get that money back. But I think for the extra points that he will get, I'd be comfortable. So my preference would be to go and get him. I think he's a world-class keeper. I don't think he's going to be very expensive. Age, I'm not concerned about that. Lemens, again, I like that. I really like that 6'4", 23. Again, nowhere near his prime. You could have him as a number 2, and I think push him for number 1. What's the worst that could happen? If Onana is going to be here anyway, you may force him out, by a younger guy, tall guy. I just want us. I want us to do something. I want us to do something around that position whereby we get a number 2 ready to force out the number 1, or we go and get one of the best keepers in the world. And don't forget, 30 million spread over 6 years is 5 million a year. I'm comfortable with that. I would still go all out for Martinez 100%. I want us to do that. He is that good. Like you say, age is fine for it. I mean, Van der Sar didn't come into his 34, and he played until he was 40. And Van der Sar, you got to look at him. I mean, he'd played in some amazing teams. He'd won a load of stuff, and you could have thought to yourself, he came in at 34 years old. He could have just chilled. Nah, Van der Sar was fantastic. So I look at it the same as that. There's not often you get a world-class keeper. So Etan AM737, hello. Roberta, look for another keeper. Banana is not good for Manchester United. I'm not going to comment on that one. I think that I know what you're insinuating now. I don't agree with that at all. So let's keep this nice. But yeah, I think as a goalkeeper, I think that Onana, whatever you think about him, and as a person, I think he's a good guy. I think he's a really nice guy. You if you listen to how he speaks and how he feels about the club, I've got no problem with him. I like their mentality. I like how he talks. I think he's a good guy. He's just, in terms of a keeper, he's just not very good. And you may have a different opinion to me on that one, but I think Onana as a keeper for me is just not very good. I think he seems like a really nice guy, and I really hope he can get a move. I think Saudi. I think for him, I think if he's honest with himself, I think that Saudi would be a move for him. He'll get paid really well. He can, I think he'll still play for his international team, and I think Saudi for him would be a good move. So I just hope that we can do something around that. Sancho again, hopefully on the move. Roundup wise, what else? Mbeumo. I just want to see him done. I want to see that done today. I don't think it's going to get done today. I think it'll get done next week. Apparently, there's a delay on it. I don't know what that delay is, but I just hope now that can get done really quickly. So, Achua FX Online Teaching Learning for says, what's the update about our striker? We need someone who can score goals. So, update-wise, I'm happy to go through this again. Šeško we've been linked to Šeško. And I think those links are good. I think there are inroads to us. I think it's a natural fit for us. And I think that there are a load of positives as to why I think that we could get this player. And I would... my only caveat to that is it spin. So I need to keep my hat on that says, look, let's be sensible and let's not get caught up in this. In Mbeumo, until he's signed, they need a positivity piece to be able to keep us fans happy, because we're itching for this player to come in. Is it spin? Is it a case of, look, we need something? We know we've been linked to this player before, so I think we need to keep that in mind. However, Šeško, I think for me, would be an obvious target. But as we've already said in the chat, where's the money going to come from to do this? Bearing in mind, we need a keeper. Bearing in mind, I think we need another midfield player. So are we going to go all out for Šeško, when actually I think the more I think about it and the more we've spoken about this in the chat, I would much prefer us to use that money in a different way, go for a different keeper. So where I think, and this is where my head is at now. Thank you, Rob. That is an amazing support there. Yeah, true. If you could please like and subscribe to the channel, even if it's not just for me, as much as I think that would be fantastic. This community and this chat, I think, is one of the most intelligent chats. I love the people in this chat. I think just as a chat, you are amazing. I love the energy that you bring. I love the comments you make me think. And yeah, it's just fantastic. Even if you come here for the community and the chat, I think this is one of the best ones here. No, and I personally, I feel very fortunate to be part of this chat as well. I'm just the guy that's just here and speaks his mind, but you guys, you really do drive the show. So, well, I think we're going to go. It's going to be one of the last things I will say, because we've been on it now for over an hour, which is amazing. The time just flies. I can't even tell you how quick the time flies. What I think we're going to go is, I think we're going to go goalkeeper. I think we're going to do something around that position, whether it is a true number one. So Martinez, I think, would be my choice. And then we go and then get a striker who is not necessarily a free striker, but a lower priced striker. I do think Vlahovic, if his contract does get cancelled, or could even be part of the Sancho deal, I don't know. But I think that Vlahovic, I think, makes sense. It doesn't matter what you sort of think about him. I think Vlahovic, maybe another free striker, a midfield, and a goalkeeper. So striker-wise, I think it's really open. I think we're still... Šeško's linked. Ajiri says, hi Bobby, how are you? Newcastle should sign James Trafford for 40 million Scalvini pounds, and Hugo Ekitike signed for Newcastle for 100. That's an interesting one. Tell you what, if they do all that business, Newcastle again, and inadvertently, obviously, we're not a Newcastle. This is not about that. But again, as an interesting point there is that Newcastle, if they strengthen, that's another team, and this is why it's important for us to do the same, because Arsenal, Liverpool, City, these guys, this is why it's important. If we want to get into this top 4 eventually, this is why we even need to keep pace with them as well. So that's a good point, Ray. So Giles in the chat, or Giles in the chat. Emmy does not sound to be an option. It's only him wanting United. United eyes are all on Le Mans for 17 million. I am not adverse to that. Emmy would be my choice, just purely because I think that he'd be here for a decent amount of time, and I do think he is a world-class keeper. But I am more than happy being linked to a goalkeeper for 17 million, 23 years old, 6'4", come in as a number 2. I think he'd come in on the premise of being a number 2, but with the expectation that we want you to push out the current keeper, and for 17 million, you really don't mind. So Yo, I think again, I am not adverse to that. I think that again he'd be cheaper, younger, unknown, but I think these are the signings that are the most exciting signings. We don't know. Imagine if he comes 23 years old and he ends up being a fantastic player. We've got him for potentially, you could have him for 15 years. That would be crazy value. Yo says, Emmy, no, there was a comment, but now that's gone. Yeah, so I like that. I hope that develops throughout the day, that we can do more business, and fingers crossed. I do think now we do need to be careful of spin. I do think we really need to be careful of that. But so far, the things that I'm hearing from you people in the chat, and it's back. So hopefully now things are going to develop in the next couple of weeks, because we need to pull our fingers out. In Mbeumo, I think we'll be done. I want to say here we go by today, but I don't think it will be. If we get the deal in principle, I think we'll get the deal in principle by tomorrow. Here we go, maybe Monday, and then try and get him on tour. Only other thing to say is tomorrow I will be doing a watch along. I'm going to try to for the Leeds game. I'm going to be watching it live. I'm doing it because I just want to watch football, really. So if you want to join me, I think the game's at 3:00. I think I'll probably put out a thumbnail and stuff and put that ready to go for tomorrow. If you want to join me, it will be amazing to kind of chat, and we can talk about the players and where we think we're going to be next season. If we ended up with Šeško, it will be at the end of the window. I think that's a good point. I think that's a reasonable assumption. Maybe because we'd want to get the deal down in price, and if Šeško wanted to push that move. But Leipzig do tend to get what they want for the striker. I don't want us to panic buy. So I think we need to make our mind up early doors. I think if we're going to go for Vlahovic, or we're going to go for some free strikers, I think we need to get that. I think we need to make our mind up and get that done, because I think the most important thing is getting these players in as quick as possibly can. However, if Šeško is available and we can get that deal done, and we want to get a keeper done and a midfield player done, then I'm not adverse to that. But I think my preference would be to get this deal done. So yeah, Leeds tomorrow. I'll put a thumbnail up. I'll put a show up for that one. I'm going to try to get this done on here. I'll try to do some stuff with the OBS as well, so we can actually have some scores up. Guys, I can't even thank you enough. Yo says, I'm amused by the strikers. We take Arsenal target and they take our target. I agreed. Striker for me this year is a really, I don't want to say funny, because I'm not amused by it, but it's an interesting situation. I just wonder what we're going to do in it, whether we're going to pivot to something, whether we're going to who's going to be right. or will they do something completely different? So I think if you're around tomorrow, please bring that in tomorrow. I am going to have to go now. Guys, thank you so much in the chat. I genuinely thank you for being here. This is the absolute best chat. I feel very fortunate that you engage with the channel. I feel very fortunate that I can talk football and about something that I love and get so many, so much support, so much love. I think you guys are amazing. So thank you so much in the chat. If anything breaks, I'll jump on. I agree with that comment. We do need to learn how to pass balls to strikers. We also need a striker that can put the ball in the back of the net. Thanks again, guys. I will jump on if anything does break. I'm not expecting it to, but if it does, I'll jump back on again. If not, I'll stick a show in for tomorrow, the Leeds game, so feel free to join me on that one, talking more football and watching the boys play. So I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching, and take care in whatever you do today, and have a good weekend if I don't speak to you tomorrow. Take care all.